Well, funnily enough, the General Assembly itself's been asking that question, and a couple of years ago it said it was probably about four reasons to have a General Assembly. One is to oversee what its committees and councils do. One is to make church law our rules. A third thing is to raise our profile in the public's eye. And the fourth thing is probably for people to get to see each other from all around Scotland and beyond, and build friendship and fellowship. So there are four things like that. I think we're probably doing quite well on a couple of them. We've got quite a good media profile. People tell me they enjoy coming to the Assembly and meeting others, but probably we could do a little more around how we keep an eye, check on our committees and councils, ask them questions, and we should do more work probably on asking how our rules, our discipline, our order system fits the church of today. Well, I think there's some things that we can do in terms of organisation. So we can make it easier for people to speak. We can make it a shorter time that people have to speak to get points across. We can help people design their questions, make their motions in ways that work. We can do all that kind of thing. But in the end, it comes down to the people who are there, the commissioners. And we need to encourage them to play a full part in questioning and suggesting ways ahead. Well, we need in particular people who come from a distance. We need to hear from people in country parishes, city parishes, town parishes, who bring to the Assembly debate a bit of their perspective, an understanding of how things work for them, don't work for them, so that we can get a balanced view of the whole spread of what it means to be the Church of Scotland. I would question a convener courteously, where I needed information in terms of numbers or costings. I would give them some advance notice. If it's a detailed thing, I would try and provide a bit of advance through the system that exists. But on the day, I would ask straightforward questions, which ask conveners why they're doing something. How does it accord with our beliefs? How does it further our church's aims? And why they were doing it that way? How does it work in our setting? Why does it work today? Why do this now? So that kind of double-sighted, double-lensed approach. Why do we do it? And why do it that way? I think if you bear that kind of these parameters in mind, you probably have a good sort of bones to hang your particular concerns on. We who sit at the table at the front of the General Assembly are always very happy to help people know when they can ask questions, know what's appropriate. There are bits of paper they can fill out which help us put material up on the big screens. We can also help them shape any motions, amendments, counter motions. I know these are all technical terms, but they're explained in the Standing Orders booklet. Put them in ways which would work, which would do what they want to do. And so at any point during the time the Assembly runs, if they want to come forward, get a hold of us, maybe easiest at the breaks, but during the session, if there's not something going on in front, please come and speak to us who sit on the right-hand side of the moderator, and we'd be only too happy to help people do what they want to do. I suspect a lot of people are nervous about speaking. It is a big group of people. And ministers of bigger congregations aside, most people don't address several hundred people at once. I would say to them that the Assembly is a friendly and positive place. People are on your side. They want to hear what you have to say. I would also say that Assembly Hall itself is an easy place to speak in. You can see who you're speaking to. It has a warmer atmosphere. And so I'd encourage people to take the step to try out their voice, to ask a question maybe first. But I would reassure them that it's a good place to be and a good place to speak. Well, personal stories can help to illustrate a point. I think sometimes they take longer than the Commissioner thinks, and the anecdote sometimes expands and covers the whole time they have available. So I would ask Commissioners to reflect carefully on how essential it is to tell a personal story. At the same time, what we're wanting here is a perspective that comes from that Commissioner's home church, home presbytery, their experience of the church, their responsibility in the church. We want to hear why what they're saying would matter to them, why they feel it's a thing that their church should be putting into place. So tell us that. And sometimes that can be illustrated, and sometimes it's probably better just said. Well, they are councils and committees of the General Assembly. They are there to do what the Assembly instructs them to do. And the only way that can happen is through Commissioners asking questions, making points, proposing actions. That's how the work is generated, that's how it is checked, and without that concerned intervention from Commissioners as the work unfolds, then councils and committees are operating at something of a distance from the real detail of the church on the ground. Now, the Council of Assembly is a council of the General Assembly like others. It's there to coordinate, to help the General Assembly find a way of budgeting across a variety of issues. It's here to help with staffing questions. It looks at buildings, the office for the church headquarters, that kind of thing. And that is a task that's been given by the General Assembly, and therefore Commissioners of the General Assembly can ask about how that task has been carried forward. I think it's absolutely vital that Commissioners engage with the strategic plan. The worst thing of all would be if people simply nodded it through. It would not be owned, there would be a sense that we had a plan, but it would not be the church's plan. And so at this stage, when it's being sent out there for the first time and asking the church, do you like it? And will you work on it with us? I think it's very important that Commissioners push, question, challenge, explore what's being suggested, look ahead to how it might be implemented, and help the Council of Assembly, help the whole church come to a mind on what the future plans are, plans that we actually want to carry forward. Well, on the day they have it debated by the Assembly, and if the Assembly instructs it, then it's set in place, and the Council has to carry it forward. The challenge is that the next Assembly asks the question about what happened at the previous one. And this year we're providing for Commissioners the back numbers of Assembly decisions going back 4 or 5 years. And if Commissioners wish, when it comes to a Council's debate, they can look back and say, what was asked of this Council 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago? And is there an evidence that it's been carried forward? And so the Commissioner on the day has to rely on Commissioners in the future, because really that is the main way that the Assembly itself checks on things. Well, you're not allowed to propose anything that means an additional cost in the budget. So what you have to do in that case is you have to ask that the Council be instructed to consider and report to the next Assembly or an Assembly after that an initiative which would have a cost, but which, if the Assembly in time approves, would be built into the budget and met from the funds of the church. I personally don't think so, and this year we're going to be trying to allow Commissioners who have something to add, say about a Council's report, the chance to speak, even if in the end the committee are willing to accept it. We need to hear the voice of the Commissioner who says, this matters, this is something we should be doing, this matters where I am. And that mix of reasoning, why we're doing it, why do it this way, is something that we need to hear, so that the whole Assembly can be assured that even if the convener is willing to accept it, that they should accept it too. and make it a joint statement of intent. If we don't let people speak, then the rest of the commissioners are not always sure why it's being proposed. And this year we hope there'll be a better chance for people to come forward, make suggestions, tell us why, and let their voice be heard. Those of us involved with it week in, week out probably forget sometimes how specialist it is. The Assembly reports which are provided to go with new legislation or changes in church law try to explain why we're doing things and how we think it'll work. But if people don't understand, then please ask for clarification. Ask what seems to them perhaps a daft question. Conveners are only too happy to answer them and explain what they're trying to do. Well, the commissioners in the end, of course, have to approve any changes to church law. But before they do that, I think they need to be asking questions of it. Is this the right thing to do? How does this reflect gospel value? How is this going to help the church grow and develop? How is this going to help the church where I am? Because what we're writing here is law that applies to the whole Church of Scotland, and we need that local perspective. I would also be asking, if I was a commissioner, how this church law is going to be put into practice, who will be responsible for it, what happens if it's not followed, and in the end, how will we assess whether it's working? Does it have an end point? Is it forever? And at what point do we come back to it and assess how successful it's been as an innovation? Well, I think there's two ways, roads in, if you like, to that question. Firstly, a lot of church law starts with a set of principles that's brought to the General Assembly, and I think anybody can look at these and think, are these the things that should be guiding us as we work towards church law? When it comes to actual detailed church law, it's usually brought as an act or a regulation, which is set out in the Blue Book and which you can read through. I think you then have to think yourself into the setting. You as an elder or a minister in your kirk session or in your presbytery, how would this work for you? Does it touch on the things that concern you? Do you see in it a solution to some of your problems? Do you see it as something which would be awkward for you to handle? And if it's any of these things, please come forward, ask the question, make the point, tell people that you see issues in it. And if you've got a concern that's pressing enough and you want to suggest the Assembly changes the law because you've seen it as something that won't work for you, then come to the desk and we'll help you. Write a little change, an amendment, something extra, a deletion, if that's the kind of thing that would help. But church law, if it doesn't work in the parish and the presbytery, probably isn't worth having. So if you can't understand it, ask. If you don't like what it says, come forward, and together, hopefully, we can come up with a way of ordering our life so that we can live together in a big church across all sorts of communities in some kind of good and healthy way. Well, I think the main innovation that people who have been there before will notice is that during most of the business sessions there'll be what we're calling a circulation break. So the Assembly will stop doing work for half an hour and there'll be tea and coffee available mainly in the quadrangle if the weather permits, but also in the rainy hall. It's a chance for people to meet, talk, to ask each other what they're thinking about the debate that's going on, to explore with somebody else maybe a question they'd like to ask, to see if their point sounds okay with another commissioner, and generally to talk to people about how the event is happening. And we hope that that chance to get up out your seat, to mingle with others, to check against others, will be part of creating a different kind of atmosphere and create for us a better debating occasion. I don't think there's any reason to be frightened. It's a friendly, charitable and gracious gathering. Those who are there want to hear people speak. They want to hear other perspectives. They want to be challenged. They want to be moved. They want to be reassured that what we're doing is good. So bring your insights, bring your perspectives, bring your voice into the General Assembly. You will get a good hearing. It's a straightforward place in which to speak. If you want help in what to say, again, we're willing to assist you with that. But please, speak. Let your voice be heard. Well, I think we do at the end of the General Assembly look at how it's gone. I would like to see more people speaking. I'd like to see more elders speaking. It tends to be an occasion when ministers do most of the talking. I think the perspective of elders from around Scotland and indeed beyond Scotland need to be heard. So I would look at the end and see if these numbers have changed. And I think we'd reflect together and ask if the atmosphere had been different, if we feel that the decisions have been better tested, that new ideas have come from the floor, which have found acceptance, and in general whether people are seeming to go away with a sense that they have spent their time well and that they've done a good thing for the Church of Scotland. I think that's a good part of our communication. Tell them what you've heard, seen, tell them about who you've met, tell them how you've met other people who are facing the same challenges. Tell them that there's good people working the things that concern them. Take it back to your kirk session. Take it back to your presbytery. Tell them about the experience of it so that they understand what's going on in their name, and also so that when another elder, another minister is sent to the General Assembly, they know it's a worthwhile way of spending a week and that they can make a good contribution.